developments are. Mr. Benwell, I'm going to start with you. I mentioned in my opening that I'm in that group of lawmakers that is really reluctant for us in the government to be picking winners and losers, whether it's as it relates to type of automobile or energy sources. And Mr. Muscat just kind of led me right into this and acknowledging that some of the incentives and supports that we currently have are going to, in his opinion, need to be around for a while longer. In looking at the charts that you have provided us, it's clear that what has happened with a lower price of gasoline at the pump has influenced consumers' decisions as to whether or not they're going with electric or hybrid. Can you kind of speak to this issue of, again, where we try to pick a winner and loser in an emerging area from your members' perspective and preferences? How should the federal government handle, or should they at all, in promoting fuel and efficiency related innovation that inadvertently or not may push in a direction that perhaps does put us in a situation where we're picking the winners and losers?
So the short answer is our members prefer an approach that is technology neutral. And so that's the short answer. The longer answer is more complicated. We identify with the goal of reducing carbon. We identify with the goal of reducing fuel dependency. So all those things are noble societal objectives. The complication comes from the nature of the regulatory regime. And what we have is an approach in CAFE where NHTSA measures by MPG, EPA measures by greenhouse gas, and then there's an overlapping state program from California, the ZEV program, which is executed in a bunch of other states, representing about 30% of the market. And the ZEV program is effectively not technology neutral. It's either basically to comply to either electrification or fuel cell. In today's world, mostly electrification. And so we're complying with different regulatory regimes, which creates friction and added costs. And we get caught in the middle between a mandate on consumption. It's not a mandate on production. It's a mandate on what consumers buy. And in a low gas tax environment, low gas price environment, consumers are moving away from the stated social objectives of electrification and moving folks into smaller cars rather than trucks. So it's a challenge. Technology neutral is ideal. We have to recognize that consumers are going to respond in a fashion that's rational for them, and they're not into optimizing policy. They're into maximizing their pocketbook.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate that. Ms. Cullen had mentioned in her testimony that contained within this bipartisan energy bill that we've moved out of committee and that we're going to have on the floor next week, that there are some R&D provisions in there that are good for the industry. I appreciate you pointing that out. Mr. Bainwall, anything else in that energy bill that the automakers are looking at and saying this is helpful for industry?
Yes. Well, first of all, a bill that's a major bill that has bipartisan support is a wonderful gesture around the country. It's a great symbol of the Congress working.
We want it to be more than a symbol. We want to update some policy.
And so it's good from the standpoint of consumer confidence, and consumer confidence is vital to purchasing big cost items like cars. But more specifically, there are provisions in the bill that are helpful. The critical minerals piece matters. I showed the chart that has the increasing price of cars, mostly flowing from compliance. To the extent we can wrestle challenges down like the critical minerals, we're stabilizing supply and reducing costs, and that allows people to buy new cars, and that's terrific. So that's very helpful. The VIA component that Senator Stabenow brought to the table is also very helpful. And we'd love to focus on V2V, because at the end of the day, V2V, NHTSA, you're no longer at NHTSA, but NHTSA's estimated that V2V can address 80% of all non-impaired accidents. So the fuel implications of that and the safety implications are substantial. So the assistance there is very helpful.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up the critical minerals bill, and Mr. Muscat, you mentioned that as well in the context of material availability and what that means for the industry, recognizing that we don't want to go in the same direction with our critical minerals that we were headed when it came to vulnerability and relying on foreign sources for our oil. So that's something that I think we're all paying attention to.